This whole world's running on zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and ones. This whole world's running on zeros and ones, running on zeros and ones.
This whole world's running on zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and ones. This whole world's running on zeros and ones, running on zeros and ones.
Whatever happened to the ABCs?
Zeros and ones, zeros and ones.
And diversified numerality.
Running on zeros and ones.
People connecting eye to eye.
Zeros and ones, zeros and ones.
Instead of typing and hitting reply.
Running on zeros and ones.
This whole
This
world's
whole
running
world's running on zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and ones. This whole world's running on zeros and ones, running on zeros and ones.
We got high def Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
Zeros and ones, zeros and ones.
And those zeros and ones are in the air that we breathe.
Running on zeros and ones.
So jump on the information super toll road.
Zeros and ones, zeros and ones.
And all that it'll cost is your analog soul.
Running on zeros and ones.
Yeah, we're running.
This whole world's running on zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and ones. This whole world's running on zeros and ones, running on zeros and ones.
Yeah, boy meets girl just ain't the same.
Zeros and ones, zeros and ones.
That E harmony is just really lame.
Running on zeros and ones.
No talk, no touch, no X and Y.
Zeros and ones, zeros and ones.
Yeah, I only know you from your JPEG file.
Running on zeros
The
and
whole
ones.
world is running.
This whole world's running on zeros and ones.
We keep running on zeros and
Zeros
ones.
and ones. This whole world's running on zeros and ones, running on zeros and ones. This whole world's running on
Running on zeros and ones.
zeros and ones. This whole world's running on zeros and ones, running on zeros and.
This whole world is running on zeros and
Hello and welcome to our online worship service from White Bear Lake United Methodist Church. I'm Pastor Bill Eves, and along with Pastor John McBride, I thank you for joining us today. You may have heard that we have a presidential election coming up this fall. In preparation for that, we are starting a new series of messages today entitled Election Year Commandments, looking at how we can live out the message of Jesus even in a time fraught with division and disillusionment. It's the mission of this church to provide nourishment for the hungers of life. We believe that God is with us today, nourishing our hungers and showing us how we can bring compassion, hope, and new vision to the world around us. If you're watching us on Facebook, please take a moment to click share so that your friends can be a part of this service as well. And now, let's be in worship together.
Mold me and make me after thy
God reveals God's self to us in so many ways. One of those ways is in prayer. So let's be in prayer.
God of unity, you have revealed yourself in the unity of the Father, the Creator of the universe, who reveals your power and majesty, the person of Jesus, who reveals what a God-centered life looks like, and the Spirit, who resides in the hearts of each and every person and calls us closer to you. While there are differing ways that you have revealed yourself, there is an amazing unity in what is revealed. Your love for all creation, and your desire that we love one another. Well, your revelation is a revelation of divine unity. We, your people, find ourselves so divided. Divided on our country's role in the world. Divided on how to care for those in need. Divided on who is in need of care. Divided on what is true and what is fake news. Divided on how to live in a pandemic, divided on how to care for one another during a pandemic, divided on what is acceptable rhetoric in a public space, divided on the very definition of democracy, and divided on how you call us to live out our political lives. The division amongst us has become so great that we've divided ourselves into camps. Camps where we only listen to those with whom we agree. We have closed our ears, closed our eyes, closed our minds, and closed our hearts to anyone in the other camp, unwilling to listen, unwilling to learn, and unwilling to find common ground. God of unity, you have revealed yourself through the beauty and majesty of your creation. Reveal to us how we can work in unity to be good stewards of that creation. You have revealed yourself in the life of Jesus. Reveal to us how we can, in unity, walk the walk and talk the talk of Jesus. You have revealed yourself through your Spirit. Reveal to us how we can discover your Spirit in the hearts of all, even those with whom we disagree. Help us to find a way to communicate, to talk and to understand one another. Help us discover where we have common ground and begin to build upon unity found therein. Help us to see that while our politics should be informed by our faith should never be informed by politics. Help us to see that you are the God of unity, calling us to unify in pursuit of a common purpose, a purpose spelled out so clearly in the prayer that Jesus taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. For your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore, rid yourself of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. If any think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues, but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world.
On October 6, 1774, John Wesley was traveling through a village called Pill in England when they asked him for some advice about the upcoming parliamentary election. In his own journal, this is how Wesley recorded what he told them: to vote without fee or reward for the person they judged most worthy, to speak no evil for the person they voted against, and to take care that their spirits were not sharpened against those on the other side. Political seasons can be stressful, intense, overwhelming, and they can be counted on to stimulate discussions, both public and private, about our deepest values and our identity as a nation. Today, we're beginning a new series of messages we're calling Election Year Commandments. And in this series, we're going to talk about how we can navigate these weeks between now and November 3rd, and how we can draw on the resources of our Christian faith to hold onto our deepest commitments, and at the same time, remain in community with those who may be at a very different place from us in their politics. We're going to talk about politics from the point of view of a Christian, and how there may be a better way to do that than the way in which Christians and politics are often presented in the media. We're also going to be examining our own politics, how our own political beliefs have been shaped, and we're going to figure out ways we can look beyond all the political rhetoric and campaign slogans. But today, we start with what should be the simplest election year commandment of all: thou shalt not be a jerk. We start there because it gets us back to the core meaning of the teaching of Jesus. Now, there's no record of Jesus ever actually having said, "Thou shalt not be a jerk." But when he was asked which commandment of God is the greatest, Jesus replied by saying there was one that outweighs all the others: to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus emphasizes in his teaching and embodies in his life everything that is antithetical to being a jerk. He talked about love and forgiveness. His actions reflected mercy and peace. He fought for the marginalized and the poor. He embraced the forgotten and brought healing to the hurting. And the world so desperately needs more of what Jesus taught and lived. We don't need more jerks, not even jerks for Jesus. People who are so convinced that they know what is right, that they act in hostile, manipulative, and underhanded ways in the political realm to impose it on others. Someone has pointed out that the followers of Jesus have a PR problem these days. We are frequently portrayed as being too loud, critical, negative, and self-righteous. A few years ago, a group of researchers from the Barna Group conducted a survey of young people in America. They were asked to name the top characteristics they think of when they think of Christians. And here are the top 3: hypocritical, judgmental, anti-gay. Sad, isn't it? The main things that people think of when you say Christian are some of the very things that Jesus would have been against. We're known more for who is out than who is in. What we're against is sometimes much clearer than what we're for. When I hear things like that, I want to say, but wait a minute, that's not me. I'm not like that. Our church isn't like that. But the fact is that we often get lumped together with those who are known for those things. And that's why some people see the church as being a group of jerks for Jesus, if you will. And in some branches of the Christian family, nothing seems to bring out the jerkiness more than a presidential election. Politics can bring out the worst in people. And if you want to see the worst in your friends or family, or maybe even in yourself, just get into a discussion about some controversial issue that you know is likely to be divisive. And I'm not suggesting that we should avoid discussing issues, but just that it should give us pause when we see what happens in many of those discussions. Dr. Doug Mendenhall is a journalism professor who undertook a research project to see how people talked about politics. He was looking particularly at online political discussions. He noted that many online political writers demonstrate a high degree of civility, both in the topics they write about and in the tone with which they address them. But then he went on to study the comments, where any reader can join the online discussion of whatever topic is being addressed. He noted many people seem to be hidden behind a shroud of anonymity, where people don't have to use their real names, and they feel free to say anything they want, often with a high degree of incivility and downright hostility and crassness toward each other. He noted, by the way, that neither liberal commentators nor conservative ones had the monopoly on incivility. And he also found that women were much more likely to be verbally attacked than men, and black women far more likely. Even the credentials of female journalists and politicians are more frequently questioned or attacked. Such commenters are often referred to as trolls, people who set out purposely to start quarrels by posting inflammatory comments to provoke other commenters, often using name-calling and profanity. Scientists from Stanford and Cornell universities have looked at the behavior of trolls and discovered that even beyond just being anonymous, there are two things that seem to influence the behavior of trolls. One is the external circumstances. For example, people are more likely to troll between midnight and 3 a.m., but much less likely in daylight hours. And people are more likely to troll on Mondays than any other day. But the other thing that influences trolls is the context. If one person begins to be rude, hostile, or vulgar in their comments, it quickly opens the floodgates for others to respond in kind. And otherwise civil discussion can be quickly derailed by one or two people making hostile comments. The initial comments in any discussion go a long way in setting the tone for the whole discussion. What we find in these online political discussions and debates can often carry over to in-person discussions, at the family Thanksgiving table, or in the workplace, or on talk radio. Well, the time of Jesus was no different from ours in one important way. Not everybody was the same. There were racial and ethnic differences, religious differences, and, yes, even political differences. Several of these differences are mentioned repeatedly in the New Testament. Pharisees and Sadducees, Jews and Samaritans, Romans and Zealots. And some of these differences were found right in the community of the first followers of Jesus. It's no wonder that the earliest Christian writings we have, the letters of the New Testament, also discuss how to talk to each other. The letter of James, for example, addresses the tendency toward sharp tongues and hot heads when the writer says, "Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness." Notice that he doesn't say that all speaking or even all anger is bad, but it warns against a temperament that speaks too quickly and is too easily set off by anger. So often today, people in political discussions feed on anger, fanning it among those who think like they do, directing it outward toward those who don't. But as the letter of James says, that kind of anger will never result in justice. And while righteous anger may be a force for change that needs to be made, hot-headed anger seldom works that way. Just imagine if listening and cool heads could pervade more of our political debate instead of shouting and rage. James calls us to consider the connection between our communication and our faithfulness to God. How could we work toward changing our political climate? The day after the 2016 election, a woman named Justine Lee had an idea. She had seen how the country was so splintered over the outcome of the election, and she realized that she didn't really know anyone whose political views were different from her own. So she said, What if we host a dinner and gather people of all political and social backgrounds and just talk and eat together? She was not a particularly political person herself. She was in her 20s and worked in marketing in San Francisco. And she realized that she would have to find these people whose political loyalties were different from her own, because they were not even in her circle of friends. So she reached out to political parties and neighborhood organizations and came up with 8 strangers who agreed to have dinner together. During the evening, they had good food and a respectful conversation with each other. And that night, a movement called Make America Dinner Again was born. Since that first gathering in San Francisco, it has spread to Seattle, Denver, Tulsa, and a dozen other cities. Each dinner is a gathering of people who want to get to know their neighbors, to listen, to understand, and to be listened to. And they often find that they are all united in their frustration with the current political landscape. As one participant said, we all have lots of opportunities to campaign, to donate, to debate, and to fight. This is a chance to listen. Now, you may be thinking that just changing the political climate is not enough. It's the people on the other side who need to change, who need to see things the right way. But of course, people on both sides are saying that. And it has made the political climate of our nation unhealthy, explosive, and dangerous. So in this election season, I'm challenging myself to do 2 things, and I invite you to join me. First, I'm challenging my preconceived ideas and judgments about other people, and hoping they don't judge me on the basis of any single opinion I might hold or any one stance I might take. And second, I'm going to have the courage to challenge other people when they express preconceived ideas about others. It could look like this. If you're in a group of mostly conservative people who share your mostly conservative views, ask yourself, how would a person who holds more liberal views feel as a part of this discussion, and how we are characterizing them? Or if you're in a group of mostly liberal people who share your mostly liberal views, ask yourself, how would a person who holds more conservative views feel as a part of this discussion, and how are we characterizing them? The election is about 6 weeks away, and on the Sundays between now and then, we will have a chance to flesh out what it means to live out this first election year commandment, thou shalt not be a jerk. As we move toward November, I encourage you to hold firmly to your convictions and to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Amen.
Where there
Hello, I'm Linda Anderson, and this is,
Jim Anderson, Linda's little husband.
and we've been members of this church, almost charter members. I think we joined in 1969, so we know a lot of people well. I know some people have talked about how they've coped with this pandemic that we've been dealing with in March, and I was thinking something that has helped me cope is, surprisingly, we see silver linings in some things, and certainly a silver lining has been our church outdoor concerts have been just great that we probably wouldn't have had without this miserable pandemic. And another thing Jim and I have done is we've taken a lot of walks, and we've lived in White Bear since 1967, but we have found we've gone to Sweet Hollow and Indian Mounds and Weber Park in North Minneapolis, and I bet you we've gone 50 different places that we didn't even know existed until we took the time. So that's been sort of a silver lining in these last few months.
Yeah, it was kind of lucky or unlucky that Linda happened to find a book full of walks in the Twin Cities area, and so we've managed to get to all of them and then added a few others, and have been lucky enough to see our grandkids once in a while, and they've come along with us on some of the walks, so that's kind of fun, a good excuse to actually get together with our older grandchildren anyway. And this is just a really unique time in our lives. You'd like to get together with people, but we've been very careful. We've had friends over, one or two couples at a time, maybe on our deck, and trying to stay spread out to stay safe. And it's just kind of an interesting time, but we will weather this also and move on to bigger and better things for sure.
Thank you for joining us for worship today. We invite you to join us each Sunday through October 11th for our outdoor worship, followed by a concert, this week featuring Hornucopia, an innovative band that pays tribute to the horn music of the rock and pop eras. Bring a mask and a chair or blanket and join us. We want to connect with you, and we invite you to visit our website, wblumc.org, where you can sign up to receive our weekly e-blast that tells about what's happening in our church community. And now, may you go into the coming week with hope. May God bless your eyes with clear vision. May God strengthen your soul with courage. May God fill your heart with love, that you may go forth to do the healing work of love today and every day. Amen.